Hey there, and welcome to Geopolitics 411. Today we're looking at an exclusive story that involves the former Prime Minister of UK, one Boris Johnson. So there are leaked documents that show Boris is no longer working for the interests of UK, but just doing personal business interests, and with that, even aiding in the war in Russia by supporting Ukraine and people that support Ukraine. So the data that was obtained by it's called the Distributed Denial of Secrets, DDoS, is an archives data that shares data leaks that have come across different companies, personalities that involve public personalities. So the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the leaked material from his private office raises serious questions relating to his time in Number 10, that's the office, and since he resigned, because this has been happening while he was still in office, but just now more has come out once he's been out since 2022. So the data shines a spotlight on Johnson's commercial interests since he left Downing Street in September 2022. So there are about 1,800 leaked files which shed light on Johnson's private and commercial activities after leaving office, and they offer a glimpse of the ex-prime minister's relationship with his donor by the name Christopher Harborne. So less than a year had passed since Johnson accepted that what ought to be the last donation ever in an individual MP, and it was from the said donor, Christopher Harborne, and one of the UK's biggest and most private political donors. So Harborne has been funding many of these political organizations in the UK. So Harborne, whose millions helped bankroll Brexit, he also made the payment to a private company through PM Johnson, which was set up by Boris Johnson immediately after he resigned as the Prime Minister. So the leaked files show that Johnson, who's a champion, who has been, even while in office, he was a supporter of Ukraine. He's still a supporter of Ukraine, and was accompanied, when he went to Ukraine, when he visited Ukraine, he was also accompanied in September 2023 by the benefactor, Christopher Harborne, on a 2-day visit. This visit, of course, included meetings with top Ukrainian officials and the president. So the organizers of the high-level gathering that was happening in Ukraine said they attended in Kyiv, said that Harborne, who is now the benefactor of the donor, let's call him the donor of Boris, attended, but he was registered as an advisor, office of Boris Johnson. So Harborne describes himself as a digital nomad, but runs businesses which range from cryptocurrency and a wellness center, jet fuel, and stakes at least 3 military contractors in the UK. So he helps, his company manufactures weaponry that is used in war, and part of the weapons produced or that the company he's associated with manufactures have been sent in Ukraine for war against Russia or with Russia. Now, his only apparent connection to Ukraine, however, is that he's the biggest shareholder in the British weapons manufacturer, whose robots and drones are also reportedly supplied to its armed forces. So the Boris Files leaked documents from Johnson's office, private office, have exposed how the former Prime Minister ought to enrich himself since leaving office by sitting down with also the Venezuelan despot and courting Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince, who is also accused of murdering a journalist, if you remember the story of Jamal Khashoggi. So it's seen that the ex-Prime Minister has associates who are associated with crime or committing crime, and he's doing this, aiding this in using, because of course every retired prime minister has an office and funding from the people of UK. However, he claims that this is donations from his friends, but as an ex-prime minister, people are questioning why an ex-prime minister would be funding or be in business with people who are funding war, people who, like the Saudi prince who killed a journalist or gave orders that he be killed. So these are issues that are coming out from these leaked files. So when asked about his relationship with Harborne, Johnson said he responded, this was asked by The Guardian, and his response was, your pathetic stories seem mostly to be derived from some illegal hack job, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. So it just shows that Boris does not want to be questioned. He cannot believe that his work that he's been doing on the side with other partners has been brought to the light by Guardian, because they're the only ones who've access to these files and done the stories. So in Downing Street, Johnson rallied Western powers. Remember when the Russia-Ukraine war began? He was top rallying Western leaders and powers against, of course, President Putin, so that they could just go and attack. So since resigning, he has also continued to travel to the Ukraine and has promised and maintained allies that are committed towards supporting Ukraine. So on 8th September 2023, again, Johnson headed for the Yalta European Strategy Forum, and in the itinerary, according to a published list of particulars from the leaked documents, they show that those who were in attendance included Ukrainian ministers, spy masters, military chiefs that mingled with foreign diplomats, politicians, executives, and a lot of other people who are involved. So it shows that Boris and Chris Harborne, his donor again, only attended the opening session of the high-level gathering. So these documents just share how much data there is to show of what was going on behind the scenes, without Boris acknowledging that he's being privately funded to push agendas that really do not stand for what is good for the country, or for UK in particular. So Harborn calls himself a private person. However, he has given a 10 million euros donation to Nigel Farage's Brexit party, now Reform UK. He has also donated another 1 million euros to the Conservatives, while Johnson was completing the UK's departure from the EU. So it shows this Harborn has been building his stakes, had been building while Boris and their friendship was growing while he was still prime minister, meaning he engaged in activities that are not allowed by the UK government. So Johnson seems to have nurtured this relationship, and further, it's also, according to the documents, it alleges that Harborne visited Chequers, which is the location where the UK's Prime Minister office is, at least twice during Johnson's premiership. That tells you these people are friends and have worked together. One, he actually landed in a chopper, and the second time, it said that it was during a Tory mega-donor barbecue in August. This is where all these donors who fund the party show up. So he was part of that. So Johnson's tenure was of course came to an end in 2022. But then his relationship went on, and he actually got a 1 million euro personal donation from Harborne immediately after he resigned. So while he was still an MP, he set up a private company by the name Boris Johnson Limited. And the financial advice reveals that he was expecting a payment to fund the company in the first few years. And guess where that money came from? The following month, in November 2022, remember he left in September. In November, which is the following month, just a month past, Johnson's entry in the register showed interest records a 1 million euros donation to his company from Harborne. How interesting. Like, how is it that a private citizen was funding a company which Johnson believed was to help, put up things, and it's just 1 month past his resignation? This just shows how much corrupt deals they had done together, and money had to be put to support him. However, the payment does not appear on the Electoral Commission's donation database of money that is usually given towards a recipient's political activities as an MP, because they get that, but you have to make it clear. So this, according to the leaked documents, does not appear. This appears, of course, to suggest that it may have been a contribution towards Johnson's money-making activities, because maybe he's a shareholder in companies co-owned. It's not clear yet, because they haven't shared all the details of the documents. So in the month of when the 1 million euros payment was made, Johnson and Harborne also dined together twice in Singapore. So this documentation on data leaks that is out shows how these two people have been working together and has different events. Again, in January 2023 entry in Johnson's schedule, it had set aside half an hour for a call with his backer here, or the donor being Harborn, and the call had just been labeled Ukraine readout. So with this, people are questioning whether it was a thing about the company producing weapons that are being sent to Ukraine, the drones and all that. That's something subject to this. This is what people are reading from these documents. So that September, by the time Johnson had quit parliament, he and Harborn also stepped aboard a Dassault Falcon, that is at the Stansted Airport. And this is a company, of course, owned by Harborn. So, and the leaked files indicate they were together. They used the private jets owned by Harborn. So the private jet, of course, apparently it's operated by Harborn, carried them to the eastern Poland to catch the sleeper to Kyiv. So you see, these two people have been operating so much, trying to move together to Ukraine, and that is why critics are saying a lot of this war, the support for the Russia-Ukraine, for Ukraine in the war, is coming from Boris and Harborn. So Harborn's lawyers, however, when questioned, said that Harborn's donation was given to enable Mr. Johnson stay actively engaged in mainstream UK politics, and it was also a donation, and it should be reported as such. The lawyers, further questioned, added that Harborn had and has no expectation of personal gain whatsoever, and any suggestions otherwise is completely without evidence and knowingly false. So he's saying they're being accused of falsely, but funny enough, there's documents to show. There's even a letter that was done that has the signature of Boris Johnson. So, and Harborn's lawyers did not give substantive answers to questions about why he went on the trip to Ukraine, because then he had been labeled as an advisor. He ought to have explained why he was on that trip to Ukraine, if indeed he's not part of the people that are funding the war. So beyond saying that, him saying that it was to appear to have little or no basis in reality, but the truth is he went. So he ought to explain why he went. The itinerary also features a closed meeting at the Military Tech R&D Center. It does not say whether Harborn attended, but this is an area he knows well. Of course, if you're producing the weapons or drones or anything that helps in this, there is no meeting that is going to happen without your knowledge. Even if you did not attend maybe in person, somehow that knowledge gets to you. So that's something very, very critical. So while his position as the largest shareholder of Kinetic, which is a company where he owns 13%, does not give him a role in the day-to-day running of the research unit of the UK Armed Forces, his financial stake in its operations is of course significant. Hence why in these documents, it's believed he played a key role. And in all these meetings that have been going on in Ukraine, then he's suspected to be top of the engaging. So Kinetic has interests in Ukraine, although it's not the biggest, but Ukraine forces use the companies, they're called Banshee drones and bomb disposal robots. So if in April 2025, UK Ministry of Defense announced Kinetic would help Ukraine's military make it with the 3D printers. So if his company, where he's a shareholder, is the one that is producing these drones and bomb disposal robots, how else would you want to know someone is involved in the war? There's no other question. That's just outright. You're involved in it. You just don't want to take accountability, or you've been caught with your hands in the cookie jar. And so now you're looking for ways of getting yourself out. So Johnson, in that letter, also refers to the trip in one of the Boris Files, more mysterious documents that were dated on 23rd October 2023, that was after a month after the visit. And the letter that carries his signature says, "I write in support of Christopher Harborne," and that is Johnson. "He's both a friend and a supporter of my office. He came with me on a recent trip to Ukraine, and I know him to be a passionate opponent of the Putin regime." Clearly, this guy is against Russia, supports Ukraine. He has a hand in it, by all means, if Johnson can write such a letter. Johnson further states in the letter that he's aware of no suggestion or evidence whatsoever that Christopher is in any way supportive of the Russian government or has links to the Russia commercial or otherwise. There is nothing to indicate why anyone might think otherwise. No such connections have emerged, and Harborn's lawyers say that none exists. Lawyers, of course, would not say anything further addressed to, like, who the letter was addressed to. It just says, "Dear Sirs," and it was written. But Mr. Johnson provided a character reference for Mr. Harborne in response to attacks on Mr. Harborne's character, they said. So when you say someone is writing in reference, you reference someone who you know is good in character, in whatever they do, their business is clean. So this just exposes Boris as someone, he had been seen as this UK Prime Minister who had interests of the nation at heart. But from what even the data leaks are showing in this called Boris Files, it just indicates, goes out to tell us Boris was not as straight as he seemed. He's engaged in private business. He is part of the people funding the Russia war in Ukraine, and he has personal interest over national interest. Simply that. You can get more of the articles on The Guardian if you want to read more. But tell me in the comment section what you think about this whole experience and how you think he should be treated after this. I mean, if indeed he's taken through the legal system and it's found that indeed these leaks are true, the data provided is true, what happens to UK's, because people will question a lot of other things. Trust gone, credibility gone, so quite something. Share with us in the comment sections what you think and how you feel this should be handled. Thanks for watching.